Steve, you got a story for me?
You ever been in a tornado?
No, it's a lifelong dream.
Well, believe me. And you know, we're West Coast guys. Our game out here is earthquakes. And I always wondered, relative to an earthquake, how terrible would a tornado be? So, in 1996, I was coming from the last emu show that I did. I had a line of emu and ostrich T-shirts and sweatshirts that I sold to people who had rat tights. And I was with my girlfriend Lois, nicest person I ever met. She died young, and we were driving her Toyota Corolla. So we were coming back from San Angelo, Texas, which played a city that played a pivotal role in my life. I'll get to that some other time. And we went to Ogden, Utah, because I had a pot customer there. Guy, we'll call him Ollie. And he lived there with his wife and kids. And we once estimated that guy, over the 25 years that I grew dope, he bought about 75 pounds from me.
Golly.
And about $300,000 worth, and he and his goddamn wife smoked all of it. I mean, he was in Utah. He didn't use it to sell or anything. These people, the chimneys, I call them. And I always remember at his house, because Lois and I stayed overnight, and we were at a table right in front of us was a mirror, and behind us, his two kids were sitting on the couch. They were teenagers there. And this guy had a terrible cough. He was a marathoner, but he had a terrible cough from all his smoking. So he was giving me the $2,000, and I was giving him the half pound. And I looked in the mirror, and I saw the two teenage kids I could see them on the couch in the living room. And they saw me looking at them, and they're going, selling my dad dope, you know. So I never visited his house again. And so the next morning, Lois and I left reasonably early, and we're driving her Corolla up. I think it's Highway 15 in Utah. And we needed gas, and I saw a 76 sign, so we pulled off in a place called Tremerton, I think. Anyway, we go down, and the 76 station, for some reason, I had a credit card, and that's where I wanted to go, but there were 2 or 3 people in line, and I thought, fuck that. And so I drove down the street to a Chevron station where there was nobody there, and I filled up, and then I said to Lois, there was a Denny's there, we might as well eat. So I left the gas station, and I drove to the back of the Denny's where there were no cars parked, and just because it's closest, and I parked behind it. We go inside this Denny's, and we went inside. All the other customers were on the next to the windows, facing the street and all, and where that 76 station was. And so Lois and I sat on the other side. And when the waiter came up, I noticed how windy it was out there. I said, is it always this windy here? This is weird. And he said, no, it's kind of unusual today. So we're sitting there, and I'm looking out the windows, and it's getting darker. And this wind looks like it's picking up outside. And then there was probably a 20, 30-foot McDonald's sign where there was a McDonald's across the street. And I saw it bend. It was like, it bent. And I thought, holy shit, what's that? And then bam! And a tornado landed. And it took out, the whole building shook. And there were 2 pane windows, and it blew out all the safety glass where those people were sitting, and they all screamed and dived under their tables. And then, it went past. And, they all crawled out, and Lois and I went over there, and there was a guy there from the Midwest, because we'd never experienced anything like that. And he said, we were just hit by a tornado. And then someone else pointed outside, and they said, holy shit, it blew all the glass out of our cars. So these are people like me traveling across the U.S., and their windows, there wasn't a scrap of glass left. There were like 10 cars out there, no windows. And then that waiter we had, he said, hey, somebody parked out back and their car's perfectly fine. And Lois
No.
goes, well, that was us.
No way.
And yeah, and all these people are looking at me, and I said, you know, this, you don't have to send your DNA in to know you're an Irish bullshitter. So I said, well, you know, they're all looking at me, and I said, I'm an old hand with weather. And when I was out there earlier, I noticed, you know, that north wind was picking up. So I parked in back to have some kind of bulwark, you know. And so we ate, and as we left, we're driving around, and these people, who knows, they may be sitting there still waiting to have their windows replaced, all of them at once. And so I rolled down the window, and, you know, I waved to them as Lois and I were driving off. I thought it was a really nice gesture, you know. And she said, Lois goes, you asshole. She called me Shortcut. She goes, you asshole, Shortcut. The only reason you parked in back was because it was closer. And I said, yeah, think about it. For the first time in my life, impatience paid off.